Hello there. So energy costs here in the UK are soaring. We have this thing called a price cap, the maximum average that an energy supplier is allowed to charge one of their customers. And that's to kind of protect customers, believe it or not. But that cap has risen from something like £1,500 about a year ago to about 3,000 something now. And in January, it will be over £4,000. And that is just a huge, unbelievable chunk of people's income. A tripling of your energy costs could be the difference between being all right and not being all right. Well, you may have noticed the title of this video is how I have successfully avoided the price hikes entirely. And I'd like to say this is clickbait. I would like to say that you can do what I did, but unfortunately, it's neither clickbait nor can you actually do what I did. But just kind of vent a little bit about what I see as the extraordinary unfairness of this situation and mainly my confusion over the situation. Actually, why are energy costs rising? So firstly, let's get to the nitty gritty. So believe it or not, my direct debit for energy is up until recently £108 a month. As it turned out, that was based on my winter usage of gas and electricity. And in the summer, I use approximately half that. So the energy companies actually just lowered my direct debit automatically to about £48 a month. So my total energy bill, I estimate, is about £1,000 for the year, which is very low. Sometimes I shower at my parents', so I don't use the gas here. When I'm at work, I haven't got the heating on here. I am very good, I have to say, at turning off apparatus when they're not in use. So I turn off televisions at the wall. I turn off, everything that's got a light on it. I turn it off. All I really have running is my fridge, freezer, and router when I go out. So I'm good in that regard, and LED light bulbs and all that sort of stuff, which are a little bit of an initial outlay, but they do use a lot less energy. But I'm not going to go down the old BBC route. So they released an article recently talking about how you could save money. So people are facing energy bills of over £4,000, and the BBC decided that it'd be a good idea to tell people, well, have one less bath a week. Turn your heating down by 1 degree because, you can save £200. Yeah. So when your bills are £4,000, that £200 and the inconvenience and discomfort that comes along with it, well, it's well and truly worth it, isn't it? No, it's completely unaffordable. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So the measures I take, the LED bulbs and all that sort of stuff, they're not the kind of things that are going to make the difference between a £4,000 bill and a £1,000 bill. I've got a smart meter as well, which for all the controversy surrounding them, I think they are a good idea because it shows you, that you've left something on you didn't realise. I've got these very quiet fans now, and I don't always realise I've left them on. They're so quiet. In fact, I'm going to review one in a future video. I've just decided because they're so damn good. But anyway, the smart meter helps me realise when I've left things on. But none of those things are how I avoided the price hike. About 11 months ago, I moved house from a very small 2-bedroom property where my energy bills were about £40 a month, I think, £45 a month, just extraordinarily low. I know, I'm tight, I didn't turn the heating on that much. Don't advise that as a strategy, but yeah, very, very cheap. Then I moved to a bigger 3-bedroom and, let's face it, nicer property. And so my energy supplier automatically transferred my account over to my new property. Rather than cancel my energy contract and pay the £50 cancellation fees for electricity and gas, I decided to cancel the supplier at the property and renew my contract with Scottish Power. So to my dismay at that time, the cost of the renewal was about 30% more expensive than I'd been paying at my previous place. And to be honest, I was beginning to sweat at that point, brand new mortgage. I'm thinking, I don't really want to be, 20 quid a month worse off. And then out of kind of, let's call it divine intervention, but I think it was more out of apathy and confusion, really. Scottish Power then said to me, here's this, tariff. They read off all the details. The things I'm interested in are the cost per kilowatt hour and the standing charge, mainly the cost per kilowatt hour. So this is about September or October 2020. And then to my surprise, they then said, okay, we're going to put you on a fixed 4-year deal. I've only ever had a sort of 2 or 3 year fixed energy contract. And I thought, well, 4 years, at least it'll stop me from having to change the supplier again. So those of you who are familiar with energy contracts will know exactly what the situation is now and what the title of this video actually means. So my energy contract is fixed. I will be paying whatever my usage averages out at, about 60 quid a month. I'll be paying this until like October 2024. It's 2022 now. I am completely unaffected by the energy crisis. Not in terms of fuel in my car, and that drives me around the bend anyway. And, it's luck. Moving at the right time. It's buying a house, or I suppose you could done it with renting a new house as well. You take out a fixed contract, and it just worked in my favour. I am still getting the £400 government help in October, which I'm not going to turn down because, I could do with a bit of extra credit in my energy account. There are people who need it more, and there may well be more government help between now and January, maybe, who knows. And maybe I'll get that as well. It all seems just a bit unfair. Mind you, I'm going to have one hell of a shock in 2024 if energy prices haven't come down again. Are you in a similar situation? Are you getting the 60 quid a month and not really needing it? Let me know down below. Anyway, I also want to move on to the kind of next point, which is I thought about this a lot. And like a lot of you, I'm sure, I really don't understand this energy crisis at all. So firstly, my energy costs went up in October last year. That was before the war in Ukraine. And now the war in Ukraine is being used as a justification for the increased cost of oil from Russia. But the prices definitely rose before the war. And now the second thing, and this is the obvious thing that you see all the time. So these energy companies, who are now charging extortionate record amounts, are making record profits. BP making something like 5 billion, Shell making something like 10 billion. People are going to drown financially as a result of these extortionate prices. And everybody says it, and I'm going to keep saying this because I don't understand why this isn't more of a thing. If they're making these huge profits, then they're charging more than they need to. So they are passing on more than the increased cost of gas and electricity, if indeed those things have had kind of economic pressure on them due to the war in Ukraine and increased their prices. They shouldn't be making the increased profits that they're making. I remember, during the pandemic, supermarkets at the time said that they weren't going to make as much profit as people thought they were because, it's very difficult. They've got to heat these stores, they've got staff on furlough and all this stuff that they were saying. And then they all made record profits. And I think the energy companies are in the same boat. Oh, next time we won't make a huge profit like that. I bet you will. Basically, we are absolutely powerless to stop them because because gas and electricity are a necessity. They have a monopoly on the supply of energy, and we are powerless to do anything about it. And before anyone says, I don't think not paying your bill is the way around that, because they probably will pursue everybody who doesn't pay their bill. So in my mind, they shouldn't be making these record profits. It's obvious they shouldn't be making these profits. But I fear that actually the free market economy, the way that the capitalist system is arranged, these companies like Shell, like BP, they have to make a profit to please their shareholders, their investors, to bring in more investment so they can continue to grow. So it's actually not in their interest. It's not a requirement of them to reduce their prices to please their customers. But I think we're also in a weird thing. In a free market, if somebody raises their prices too much, then somebody else can charge less and people will go to that company and there'll be a happy medium. The market will find a level by itself. There's a kind of exceptional circumstance, I think, where all the big greedy companies who are the energy suppliers, if they all put their prices up, what choice have we got? We have to keep buying energy from them. And that, I think, is the situation we're in at the moment. They're all putting their prices up. What do? No, your choice is no gas and electricity or go with the company that's charging too much. And they're not going to lower their prices unless they are forced to lower their prices, because they keep raising their prices and guess what? We keep paying them because we don't have a choice. So now I'm going to meander into, say, government intervention here. So the government are doing absolutely nothing about this. What the government are actually doing is subsidising the energy companies by paying us all 400 quid a month. That isn't going to make the situation better. I mean, I won't go as far as to say it's going to make the situation worse. And if the next round of help is to do the same thing, again, it's not actually addressing the problem. It's a sticking plaster. But actually, I'm not an economist, but a bit like the furlough money in this country, it's printing money, essentially. It's giving money for free, and that is an inflationary pressure on the economy. Creation of money leads to inflation, because the more money there is, the less it's worth, so the more stuff costs. So, as I say, I'm not an economist, but that's my broad understanding of how it works. So if anything, it could actually, going back on what I said previously, have a negative effect on the situation. So I don't think that is the way forward. And I think ideologically, a Conservative government isn't going to intervene with the energy companies because, firstly, they think that the energy company making all their money is the way to grow the economy, because it's this trickle-down theory. The more money the huge corporation makes, the more money the rest of us have. I mean, okay, maybe in the long term, maybe somehow, in a way I can't imagine, but in the visible and tangible short term, we're all facing extraordinarily high energy bills. So this whole hands-off approach of the Conservative government, I don't think is working at all. What do I think they should do? I don't know. I'm not a politician, but I think they need to stop the energy companies from raising their prices. And, governments love a good tax, don't they? Maybe a windfall tax that's really kind of carefully thought out, that really punishes the energy companies for making record profits. And you know what? At this point, if that pushes the energy companies to bugger off to another country or, leave London or whatever, then so be it, because we can't carry on with energy costs like this. Talking about inflation, there's another problem in this country, which is inflation, which is going to approach 13 or 14% by January. And that is entirely caused by this energy crisis. Okay, so because the cost of energy is so high, there'll be people spending a third of their take-home pay, probably more, on heating, well, not even properly heating their home. And also the increased cost of energy means that the cost of production of various goods and shops and things, their costs increase, so they also have to increase their prices. But the root cause of this inflation is the increase in the cost of energy. Now, we have this sort of supposedly independent Bank of England that's in charge of controlling inflation. They have an inflationary target of something like 2%, pulling these numbers out of my arse, as you can tell. Basically one tool at their disposal, and that is the interest rate. And the idea is you increase the interest rate, and that encourages people to save. So if you put interest rates up to 10%, it makes more sense to put the money in the bank than it does to go to the shop and spend it. If you're not spending it in the shop, then you are reducing demand, so supply increases and the price should come down. That's my understanding of it. And the reverse of that is if you reduce interest rates, you encourage people to spend, because what's the point in having money in the bank? So the Bank of England have started regularly increasing interest rates by 0.25, 0.5%, and I think they're at something like, I'm making this up again, 2%. And I don't know where interest rates are going to head. Problematic for people remortgaging. Problematic for people with any loans at all that are on some kind of variable rate or that they need to renew. And the problem is they're increasing interest rates because that's the only tool they have at their disposal. But increasing interest rates doesn't encourage people to not spend money on their energy bills. For people who already don't have enough money for these extraordinary energy bills, and for people who do have some money but have got ridiculous energy bills, it's not going to stop them spending money. It's not going to stop energy companies putting their prices up. So in actual fact, I think increasing the interest rate is a completely ineffectual approach to try and bring down inflation. Maybe in ordinary times when there's too much money in circulation, it might have some effect. In fact, I'm sure it does. I'm not trying to denounce the entire science of economics. I just don't think it's going to work in this instance. I think what we're going to see is energy prices stay the same, or God forbid, increase even more, but more home repossessions as people can't afford to pay their mortgages, more people turning to loan sharks, more people just in absolutely dire financial situations as interest rates make everyday living unaffordable. And I've got a 5-year fixed mortgage as well, so my interest rate for my mortgage is 1.99% for 5 years, so 4 years from, I think, the end of September. So I'm all right in the short term. I hope when I look back on this video in 5 years' time, if YouTube is still around, I hope I don't look back on this and think, oh no, they were the good times. Now what am I going to do? But hopefully 5 years is enough for things to sort of settle down a bit, maybe. What do you think? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this kind of rant and discussion about the energy crisis. I hope it gets sorted. Anyway, thanks to my loyal patrons who are scrolling down the screen now, especially George Foote, Jim McCaig, Jennifer Jones and Rob Van Eden, who are extremely generous patrons. Thanks very much, and see you next time for another video.